it's me, Angela Martin, straight from our DigiCape training room with another quick cast. Now in this episode we'll be looking at the multitask features within the iPad. Now just before we get started, just to let you guys know that we are running our in-store training sessions at our new Garden Center store in Cape Town. So if you guys want to skip the traffic, we are running the sessions on Wednesdays evenings from 5:30 until 6:30. Also, if you want to pop in maybe on a Saturday, we are running it on a Saturday from 9:30 until 10:30. So guys, come in and check us out. I'm very sure you will love our new store as well. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you guys is to have multiple windows within one app. So now I'm going to go into my Notes app. And when you're in any app, you would notice that there's these three dots at the top. Now once you tap on those three dots or your ellipses, it will give you all these options. We're currently on full screen. We can switch to split view or slide over, simply just close the app. At the bottom, it will also give you to add in a new window. I can say I'm currently on a note called Special Needs Event. Now if I should tap on the new note button, it will just add in another window. I can add in additional ones on top of that by just tapping on the new window again. However, if I should go into my app switcher, so I'm closing down that app and I'm going to go into my app switcher, then I would notice that they've shown these two windows that I've opened within my app switcher, but next to my app icon, it's got a little badge there. So there's a badge only appears if you add in an additional window like I've just done earlier. So now if I should tap on that badge, it will show me the two windows. However, I can add in an additional one even when I'm within my app switcher by just tapping on the plus. And now if I should go to my app switcher again, then it will now give me the three windows. Now I'm just going to tap on the badge again, and this time around I'm going to delete one of those windows. Now if I should delete it, in fact I'll delete both and I'll just keep the one. Now after deleting those, I can click on the reopen close window as well. So if I now should tap on those, it will bring back those two windows again. So even if you have by accident closed a window and it is part of the multiple windows that you've opened, you can always reopen them within your app switcher. So next up, let's look at our split view as well as our slide overview. Not only can we run multiple windows within one app, but we can also run multiple apps with one window. Now to achieve this, we will go either to our split view or into our slide overview. So I'll start with split view first. If I tap on split view, my app will move to the side, giving me the allowance of selecting any other app, which will then run it into split view. Now when my apps are in split view, I can assign more screen real estate from the one app to the other by tapping in the gray button in the middle and just sliding it from one side to the other side. Also, if I do slide it all the way across, it will then make that app into a full screen app. But the second one will also be in full screen. If I do go into my app switcher, there I can see there's the other app as well. So if you made this mistake, you can always bring it back into split view by just taking the app that's running in full screen mode and dragging it back into the window, which will then take it back into split view. Also, if I do decide that I want to switch from split view into slide overview on any of the apps, I can go to the ellipses again and select slide over. Now you'll see that my app that I did into slide overview will become a floating window on the other app. Now I can move it from right to left, whichever one is more convenient for you, as well as I can also decide, you know what, I want to go from slide overview back into split view, even full screen view, by tapping and holding on the dots, moving it to the side will make it into split view, either left or right. Or I can then also take it from slide overview back into full screen view by dragging it to the middle, which will then make it into full screen view. So if I again want to go back into split view, app switcher, and drag that full screen window which will then go back into split view. Now that I can use my split view, full screen view, switch from full screen to split view to slide over view, I can combine these views together, which makes it possible to run more than the two apps simultaneously. So to do that, I can just slide my finger from the bottom up, which will then show me my dock. And from my dock, I can select and drag any of these apps, but be careful to drag it not on any of the windows, because otherwise it will replace it, but drag it to the middle, which will then become a slide over view. In fact, I'm going to do another field back onto the dock. I'm going to take my books app, drag it to the middle, release, and I'm going to take one from my apps library. Now, having the apps library makes it possible then for you to select any app on your device. So now I will take my calendar app and I'll drag that to the middle, which will also become a slide overview. Now I can switch between those different apps that I've added by going to the line at the bottom and just swinging it from one app to the other. If I tap on those lines and I drag it all the way until the apps peak out and I release, I can now select any of these slide overview apps by just tapping on it, which will bring it to the front. And at the same time, I can also view all of the apps that are running in full screen, as well as in split view, as well as in slide overview, by going back into my app switcher. And from my app switcher, there you can see all of my apps, even the ones that are running in slide over. Keep in mind, with the shape that's in slide overview, it's a much longer shape of the windows, which we will see as well when we go into Stage Manager. And with mentioning that, next up will be our Stage Manager. So for Stage Manager to work, you need to have either an iPad Air 5th generation or an iPad Pro with the M1 or M2 processors, as well as your iPadOS should be on version 16.1 or higher. Now you can see I've got an iPad Air 1st generation, my iPadOS is on 16.3.1. Now, after that, you can simply just go to your Control Center and tap on the Stage Manager icon. Now you can see that I don't have it on my Control Center because I've disabled it to show you guys how you can actually enable it if you ever find yourself in that situation. So if you go to your settings, you go to Control Center, and in your Control Center you can tap on Stage Manager, and there it's on. So if I go back to my Control Center, there you can see there's my Stage Manager. I just enable it. So now that I've got my Stage Manager enabled, if I go to any of my apps, you would notice that on any of my app windows, I will have a little symbol on the bottom right hand side. So if I tap and I drag that symbol upwards, you will see that I have the ability now to make my app window into a smaller window, also revealing my foremost recent apps on the left hand side. So now I can easily navigate from one app to the other by just tapping on the foremost recent apps. And also I can access it by going into my dock, and if I should tap on that app, it will now also bring that app from my foremost recent apps. If I want to see the other most recent apps, I can still access it by going into my app switcher. So now I'm just going to tap back onto that app again. Now, if it is in a situation where I actually prefer to run it in full screen mode like I had it before, I can tap on the bottom right hand side and move it all the way down to the corner of the device, and it will switch to full screen mode. And if I'm in full screen mode and I want to take it back to window mode, besides me swiping it back to the opposite direction, I can just slide my finger from left to right, which will reveal my most recent apps, which will then make the window also smaller. Now, besides the fact that we can resize a window, have access to our recent apps, we can minimize the window, which will take us directly back to our home screen. So if I go to my ellipses and I say minimize, it's to the app, which will bring me back to my home screen. So now if I want to go back to show me my most recently opened apps, I can tap on any app, and there we go. If I slide my finger, then there's all my most recently apps. So whenever you're in an app, you have access to all of your most recently opened apps. What makes Stage Manager handy is the fact that we can actually group apps together. So say for instance, I go back to my Safari and I decide, you know what, I actually want to go to another website. So I want to call up another window. I can do this one of two ways. I can go onto the ellipses and just simply tap on add another window. So now if I add another window, I can go and access it from my most recently opened apps, or I can just tap on the app icon on my dock or in my app library, and it will add it in as well. The other option, of course, is, say for instance, I wanted to add in another window. It can be from another app as well. So to do that, I can access my dock and I can drag that app also in. So either the ellipses or just dragging it in from your dock will add it in. So I've got these three apps running, but then I decide, you know what, I don't want to run my Safari window with this group. I can take that Safari window and drag it to the side. You will see it minimizes. So now it's out of that group. And if I do want to add in another window to this group, maybe a different one, I can take that and drag it in, and so on. And now I've got a group of apps running. It was separately from my others. So if I tap on any other app, it will move that group to the side. Notice also that some windows, if you have switched from your previously multitasking to Stage Manager, then you would notice that some of the windows looks a bit longer because these windows, of course, were my previously slide over. Now, another essential part that we can also utilize with our Stage Manager is that we can access or see the apps that are running within our recently opened apps by tapping on the icons. In other words, if I should tap on the notes icon in this group, it will only show me that one group. Now, because I'm running two separate Safari windows, one running in one group and others running in this group, if I tap on the Safari icon, it will also show me that other Safari window. So if you're running multiple windows but from the same type of app, you can easily see those other windows by just tapping on the icons. So quite a useful way to navigate as well. Now, if you find Stage Manager to be a handy tool for you, you can increase your resolution of your device to give you a little bit more screen real estate. So to do that, we're going to go to our settings, and in our settings, we're going to go to our display and brightness, and at the bottom you can select the display zoom with more spaces. You can select the more spaces, click on done, and this will give you that additional screen real estate. Now, besides that, I do want to show you guys how beneficial your iPad can become running Stage Manager but connecting it up with an additional display. In my case, there is an additional display. I haven't plugged it in yet, but I'll quickly plug it in to show you guys what you need to do. You must have a good enough hub to plug it into, guys, and the standard Apple ones is good. The Atom Elements I find actually pretty good. We're not sponsored by them, but it's a product that we do sell in our store. So if you need to have a good hub, you can check out this one, and I'll just quickly plug it in. So now you can see I've got it all plugged in and it's running as a separate display, guys. Is another thing that we need to be aware of when you're running the iPad onto additional display. By default, it will run as a mirror display. If you need to run it as an extended display, you must have either a mouse or a trackpad tied to your iPad. So if it is in that case, if you are running it as a mirror display, I'll quickly show you where to change your settings. So you go to your settings, and in our settings you would see that it comes up with your two displays with arrangement. So if I tap on arrangement, we would notice that my mirror display is turned off, but if it's turned on there, you will see that mine is now mirrored. then all you need to do is just switch it off, and then you can position your iPad into a space where you can easily navigate with your mouse pointer back onto the display. Alternatively, you can just group your iPad by tapping on any of the squares. So it means if I move my mouse pointer upwards, I will access my iPad, or downwards will access my Hisense, but in my case I will set it in that order and I'm good to go. So I'll just hit cancel and I will get out of my iPad, and let's see what happens if we work with our display. So now all I do is I'll just turn this camera to my display. If I click on my Safari, you would see that it will open my Safari window. I can of course go and resize it from any of the corners differently to that of my iPad. I can go to the top left hand corner, top right, and so on. So your iPad becomes now more of a workstation, similar to that if you should plug in your laptop into additional display. And I can also group apps together by dragging that app window like I did before. I can minimize any of these windows by just tapping on minimize, which will put it as a recently used or accessed app. I can go into my apps library and even group any of the apps from my apps library directly by dragging that in as well. And then I can resize that window, tile it nicely with my other window. And while I've got my group of apps sitting on this display, I also have access to my apps or to my group of apps running on my iPad over here. So in essence, I've got two sets of groups running on my iPad as well as that of running on my display. And I can also decide if I want to move an app from my display to my iPad, go to the ellipses because that's been added on, move to the iPad, or go back to my iPad and say to any of the windows over there, move to my display, which is over there. So if you do plug in a display into your iPad, you will see how it changes your workflow with using Stage Manager. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and stay tuned for some more, and hopefully I'll catch you at our internal training sessions at our new DigiCape Garden Center store. And until then guys, have a fantastic day ahead and goodbye.